Hello. All right, so this week we've been talking about the idea of the prisoner's dilemma and how it relates to the question of building socialism. And, I've already made videos about it, but just to reiterate, the challenge here is that, the status quo that we're all thrown into at birth, that we have no real choice about, um, dictates that each individual agent needs to, in order to contribute to building socialism, what that would take on the part of an individual agent is for them to behave irrationally with respect to their own particular immediate interests in order to behave in the interest or act towards the interests of the collective, of society as a whole, in order to transcend the trap that we're all stuck in. Everybody would have to behave to some extent irrationally. And then we also talked about we contextualize that with the real material phenomena, the empirical phenomenon of workers' struggles. The riot wave that swept the United States this summer is an example of people, workers, temporarily at least, transcending the prisoner's dilemma and digging themselves out of it by forming a new collective way of behaving. What obviously it was insufficient to actually attain revolution. There was never really a hope that rioting would be able to do that. There's just not enough there for that to actually break through the wall and seize state power or whatever. But the fact is that this riot wave and the entire history of that type of struggle, of any kind of collective struggle, is an empirical phenomenon that demonstrates that there is some basis on which workers are able to get themselves out of the prisoner's dilemma. So what is that principle? What is the historical principle that allows people, the working class, to get out of the prisoner's dilemma? And drawing on this endnotes essay, Spontaneity, Mediation, Rupture, from Volume 3, I'll put another link to it just because it's a good essay, so you should read it. The what is posited in that essay is a particular definition of spontaneity coming from Kant, where spontaneity is not how we conventionally understand it, but it actually means something like a free-willed action. It is in reference, to the faculty of the apperception, which is like self-consciousness, but it's self-consciousness that is done intentionally on the part of the cognizing agent, on the part of cognition. It is free action that is chosen. So, with respect to a protest, like a rally, a vigil, for example, the George Floyd vigil that spilled over into the streets and became like a sustained protest, not just in the Twin Cities, but across the country. So how did that happen? It was through the choice of everybody who's participating. It was through their free-willed choice in order to no longer be victimized by the prisoner's dilemma, to simply ignore the rules of the status quo. And when done collectively, that the collective has the power to resist the cops, as was demonstrated this summer. But today I want to talk a little bit about the role of the activist in all of this, because I think it's an important thing. This riot wave that struck the United States this summer, it was a temporary wave. It was never really, I didn't really have any expectation that it would become like a real revolution. That was never really on the table. It had like a pretty limited set of demands, such as they were, abolish and then defund the police. It's a great demand, but it was never like really revolutionary. The There's no like party at the core of it, and there's no practice. There are no social practices that were really being explored that could possibly have overcome capitalist social agents. Anyway, the point is here that like the role of the activist in this is not to necessarily like organize or like push over the like collective spirit. It's not really to like channel the will of the collective or anything. It's more about, at least as it is posited in this endnotes essay, which I think is pretty compelling. It's, I mean, at least one of the roles of the activist is to like transmit knowledge through history. And I think like so the activists, they're engaged in like a continuous struggle. Like the George Floyd protests is not an isolated incident. It is not like a freak occurrence. It is, the results of long simmering tensions in the United States. Even recently, like Ferguson was a huge thing, but there are like large protest waves and like demonstrations more recent than that like the George Floyd protests this summer are a continuation of. And it is not like, we shouldn't really see the activist as like being responsible for that in any sense. It's really not the activist, and it's not the party even perhaps that is responsible for turning like these kinds of like collective like choices to transcend their circumstances into like a sustained movement that can fight the cops over the course of months. The activist is more about like transmitting knowledge again. So because these protests are all part of a historical continuity, they're developing, they're advancing. It is not just the cops who are getting new technology and who are like developing new and better tactics at dealing with protesters, but the protesters as well are developing new technologies. And every time like a protest wave like this kicks off, it begins at the height that was attained at the previous protest. So you saw this summer that things like got pretty insane pretty quickly. Like Democrats, liberals were very quickly like shaking in their boots, frightened. So were the conservatives, of course. Like everybody was very frightened at the ferocity of these protests that seemingly came out of nowhere all of a sudden. But really, they are a continuation. They are like a bubbling forth of tensions that have continuously been bubbling, and that like every time that there's a huge like protest wave like this, and then it like dies down again, it doesn't just disappear, and that energy is not just nullified. And like when there's a new protest, it isn't just starting over from point zero, but rather like activists and people who are involved in the protests, and who even when the protests die down, continue to live the protest in their hearts, are transmitting knowledge. They're transmitting organization. They're organizing for the next time that the collective, the class, the workers rise up again, and they're ready and willing to like push it to the limit, which is what allows these things to develop historically. So I think that's a very important part of understanding this dynamic of class struggle, and understanding how class struggle works, and understanding the role of the activist. And the activist is kind of like a placeholder for the party as well. Like I personally believe in the central role of a revolutionary party, a communist party. And I think the Communist Party, it's really, I'm starting to question like what exactly it is that it does. I don't think that it is about like organizing and like generating on its own. The Communist Party doesn't really like agitate or like cause a revolution or like an insurrection that could become revolutionary. Maybe the Communist Party it's about like pushing and sustaining these kinds of, like something like a riot wave. If there had to be in a Communist Party present, like a powerful enough, sufficiently powerful and organized Communist Party in the United States, with like actual a revolutionary political line, then perhaps they could have, focused the energy that was on display this summer and actually pushed it over so that it would still continue to sustain itself and also be able to break forth into new social territory, like the military, for example. It's a very important part of doing a revolution and taking control of the state is getting the military on your side. So yeah, that's just some thoughts. And tomorrow I'm going to... I always promise to do a video on Saturday, never get around to it, but I am going to try very hard to record a video about a movie that I saw recently, a really shitty movie, but one which I think, in some of its depictions of historical class struggle from, the mid-20th century, demonstrates, what I'm talking about the continuity and the developing tactics of these kinds of revolutionary movements, these kinds of anti-capitalist and workers' struggles. So I'll see you then. And I'm having a live stream. Just a reminder, live streams on Sunday. Really fun time. I've got a lot of stuff on the docket. This has been a good week, and I got a lot of stuff that I'm looking forward to talking to. Live stream Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. But until next time.